What I'm going to talk about today is going to be a little bit untraditional in the direct-to-consumer world, and I'm really excited to talk about, and hopefully I can provide a lot of value. So, hey Wes, I know we've never met, but would you be interested in giving me an hour of your time so I can pick your brain? How many people here have got a question like that in your LinkedIn, in your DM? I'm sure many of you, right? And it probably didn't make you feel too amazing, right? Pretty terrible feeling when people just come at you right away. I call it transactional. So nobody likes transactional people. Nobody talks about transactional people, and nobody introduces transactional people to their networks. Also, nobody raves about transactional people. So why do we think like this as a brand when it comes to creating our content? So you're probably wondering how being transactional has anything to do with what I'm about to talk about. So my name's Wes. I'm the founder and CEO at Dsrupt Media, and I have a belief that you can build a moat around your brand through content that entertains. So with this talk, you're going to learn the ins and outs of creating viral ads and content that people actually love to watch. So a little bit about Dsrupt. We have a few different things that we do, but I'm just going to talk about the viral ads today. And so we launched a D2C production company 1.5 years ago. The preface was very simple. It was just to make ads that people actually love to watch. Since launching, we've driven 65 million in revenue for clients and over 170 million views across our ads. We mainly work with 8- and 9-figure brands on this section of the business. And a little bit of background, I don't want to go too deep in here, but I'll give you guys a little bit of a preface on kind of how it led to this. So since I was like 17, 18, I was failing forward as an entrepreneur. Started a bunch of different things, failed a ton. I started my first D2C brand called Sum of All Borders in 2016, and I didn't even know what the word D2C was. It failed. I had a bad business partnership, and I didn't have a lot of like tangible skills to actually build the company. Then I got into e-com in 2018. I got introed to a guy, and I got scammed for all my money. I had to fly to New Zealand and basically try and get my money back. Still haven't got paid. So Henry, if you're watching, I'd like my money someday. Late 2019, I got into my first private label drop shipping store to just shy of $1 million a month. Since then, I made a ton of infrastructure mistakes while doing that, all private label drop shipping. I drop shipped for another year. I did a ton of revenue. It became very misaligned with what I wanted. Ultimately, I became pretty unhappy, and I stopped at the end of 2020. I learned a ton about direct response and performance marketing and anything related to e-com through this journey. And late 2020, basically, we became a full service agency. We launched our first client on a pre-order to just over 220K in 45 days. And so that was kind of my start in the agency kind of world. And then this was around when iOS 14 happened, which made me think about transitioning the agency's trajectory. So this is kind of when we launched the high production stuff, and I'll go into it here. So what led to my success in e-com and like why our clients were winning on paid was not because I was like the best tactical media buyer. I never considered myself, after over 5 million in spend, to be a great tactical media buyer. I was just really solid at making great creative and reiterating that creative and being able to see what is working and what's not working and why that is. So this creative drove lots of comments and shares, which helped our performance and sales. I got good at what to look for with winning ads, and early 2021 decided to double down on content. So we saw brands like Purple, Dollar Shave Club, Loom Deodorant, and one of my favorite brands, Liquid Death, making content that people actually love to watch. But there was a problem I saw. So the thing is I saw a lack of brands that were able to make content that entertained. So that was one thing. But I also saw production companies that made beautiful stuff, but it drove no sales and it drove no results. So we thought, what if we combine the two? So that's where we launched Dsrupt Productions, and our thesis is kind of where performance marketing meets art. So that's when we transitioned. We launched Dsrupt Productions. Again, the idea was very simple. Make ads that people actually want to watch, not overcomplicating anything, and then also have them drive rev. So the first ad we did, we pitched a client who's owned by Nestle. They're called Persona Nutrition, and they're a supplement brand. And we hadn't done any high production, any comedic style ads yet, but I was in my driveway and I was talking to my neighbor, and this was around when the Karen meme was going super viral. And my neighbor's name happens to be Karen. So I was talking to her and I was thinking in my head, like, I don't know if any of you guys have had those talks with people where you're like, am I the most awkward person in the world, or is this person the most awkward person in the world? And I'm going back and forth. So I run inside, I write this script, and I pitch it to Persona Nutrition. And it was called the Karen ad. So I don't know if any of you have seen this, but this is one of the ad IDs. And to this day, this ad has driven over 65, 70 million views across ad IDs. And I'll play that now. So this is the first one we did. Can we get volume on there? Yeah. Not a big deal. I can play it after, if it's not a quick fix. Do you want to jump up here? Sorry, I'm not too tech savvy. If we can't figure it out, that's fine.
Is it desktop?
Systems.
Yeah. Audio. Sound. Output.
Should be good. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Go back to play that.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yep, cool.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that, guys. Let's try this again. So that was the first thing we did in the high production kind of world, making these very scripted ads that are meant to entertain. So enough about me. Building a moat around your brand through content that entertains. I want to give a ton of value with this talk. You're going to learn how to think differently about your brand, how to entertain people and make ads that people actually love, and how to measure the results from a performance perspective. Also, how to do this from a very high Hollywood production standpoint all the way to iPhone, TikTok quality. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can, but you don't have to. Here's what I believe you can build a moat around your brand through content that entertains and provides value. So you look at a guy like this headline here, Mr. Beast. He just turned down $1 billion, which is insane. So I'm sure not many of us here would turn down $1 billion for our companies, right? But he's selling burgers, chocolate bars, and things of that nature. These are all commodity products. So he's not the only one crushing. You have Nelk Boys with Full Send, Happy Dad, their NFT projects, Logan Paul, KSI with the Prime, Emma Chamberlain, Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio with their social tourist clothing brand, and then they just launched D'Amelio Brands. So what do all these people have in common? Yes, they're famous influencers, but that's not what I'm talking about. So they all have an asset, and it's not their products that I'm talking about. They all are just selling commodity products. So what is their asset? Their asset is their audience. So they've all built a massive moat around their companies and businesses, and their products are not the moat. Their moat is putting out content that people actually love. They can put out any product, and people will buy it. Why? Because literally they just give away stuff all day long that's made to entertain people. So this creates brand affinity, which basically means what your customers actually think about your brand, which is very important. And a lot of like designer brands talk about this, and that's like a big thing they measure is what people actually think about their brand. Do people think it's cool? Do people think it's enjoyable? Those kind of things. So in simpler terms, the connection between the customer and your brand, and even simpler terms, do people actually give a shit about your brand? So why are these people not talked about much in the D2C world? Maybe because it's like talking about going broad, cost capping, and consolidating ad accounts makes you sound smarter. No, I think it's literally just because we aren't celebrities and influencers, so we see them completely separate from D2C. We see them as anomalies, these people, right? Because they kind of are anomalies in a way. But I think they can teach us a lot, and I think we can learn a lot from these types of creators as brands. So what if we tried to think more like them as a direct-to-consumer brand? I want you to get your head out of performance-obsessive mode here and just think about brand affinity with me while I go through this. So how can we make people love our brand and what we stand for? We need to entertain them and provide them value. We aren't influencers, though, right? So it's hard. But that doesn't mean we can't think like them as brands or brand owners or even agency owners who work with brands. Although direct response performance works and is important, the biggest influencers and brands aren't thinking like this. My background is DR performance as well, but I kind of think of it as bucketing content. That is one very important aspect, but also making stuff that is highly entertaining and valuable to the consumer is just as important. So if we're not influencers, how can we think like this? I'm going to quickly talk about one of my favorite brands, Crushing It, who thinks with this thought process. Many of you guys, as soon as I click the next slide, you guys are going to know who it is. So Liquid Death, they just got valued at $700 million. They sell water in a can. So what has made Liquid Death so valuable? I believe part of it to be a lot with how they execute their content and how they think about creating content as a brand. So what do they do differently? They have a massive content moat. They have 2.8 million followers last time I checked on TikTok. They create an abundance of entertaining videos. Their YouTube channel with highly entertaining ads that look like Hollywood movies. Really memorable brand tagline, Murder Your Thirst. They're just a commodity product though, again. But they've built this cult-like community. Anyone you talk to, like Mark and I were out for dinner last night, and we talked to a girl about Liquid Death, and instant reaction right away, I love that brand. And that is a crazy response for a brand that sells water. So they've built such a loyal following, and whether it's high production or TikTok organic, they focus on actually making hilarious content, providing the audience value, being highly relatable, building community, not trying to just hard sell with every piece of content they make, which in our world of direct response and performance marketing, we're so attached to the numbers and metrics that can be a very easy thing to lead down that path. Doing everything from point and shoot on TikTok to very high production movie-like stuff. I know they just produced a full-blown movie. I think it was a short film. But whatever they're shooting, their focus is to provide value. Now they have a bonkers evaluation of $700 million. So they're a content-first company, D2C brand second. So let's break it down. And this is like a comment I get all the time, like, it's probably so expensive. Well, yeah, but it's also very expensive to have a terrible content strategy. So let's start with their TikTok. They have over 187 million views on their hashtag Liquid Death. They bring celebs in their niche like Tony Hawk into their TikTok videos. They have their brand mascot, the Executioner, in a lot of the videos and ads, and they send them into grocery stores, other things like that. It's highly engaging, and right away, if you hadn't known who they are, you discover it once and you automatically know who they are. They do hilarious remakes of videos like the Ty Lopez Here in My Garage video. They don't post as much as some other brands post, but when they do, it's very high quality. So what does this mean for your brand? I think it means just start making and putting out content that you think is cool and that you think people would like in your demo. So why this is key, it builds massive community. If you go back to the YouTube influencer reference, they have massive followings here, and they consistently put out content people love. So we aren't influencers. Liquid Death, their company is not started by an influencer. But our brand can become like a celebrity by thinking this way. And it allows people up close and personal communication with you through the comment section on TikTok, obviously. Then you can repurpose all the content to Reels, Shorts, Pinterest pins, etc. And what we've seen is like companies that are able to do this, like a massive lift across all your ad accounts. So on their YouTube, they have semi-produced to highly produced movie-like style. It's highly shareable. Big word-of-mouth factor, which is very important. If you can create ads that people go and tell a friend about, go tell their parent about, or whatever it may be, that's super important and also very hard to read, but I think that's like one of those things where it's a big long-term play. We do UGC. UGC is very important too, and I'm a believer in it, but I don't think many people watch a UGC ad and go, oh my gosh, did you see that awesome UGC ad from X brand, if you're talking to a friend. So they also do very funny things that are on brand to them. They've casted porn stars in their ads, tying people up, waterboarding them, to kids partying with Liquid Death, making it look like they're drinking alcohol. They're very on the fringe, and they push the boundaries. And when they do that, it gets people talking. So their whole thing is like they make content people actually love to watch. And this makes people tell stories about their brand and creates this big brand affinity. So YouTube is a bit higher barrier to entry, but I recommend getting on here if you're not already. So you don't have to spend ludicrous amounts of money if you learn how to do it yourself. But here's kind of how we do it and how we create kind of from a bird's eye view. So we come up with a concept, and I'll go through and talk about like how we came up with the triple whale concept at the end of this after I play that ad for you guys. We come up with a concept. We write a script around that concept. We find the perfect location to shoot. We have a sound team, directors, producers, etc. And we have all that now, but when we started, we did not have that. We started that first Karen ad you saw, we did that with 3 of us and 1 talent, super scrappy. It's all about just finding the right people and the right creatives who can help execute an idea. So then you plan it, cast the talent, if you're in a local area, say like Austin, you could Google talent agencies Austin, and you could find companies that represent actresses and actors to cast in your ad. So what we do when we cast for a commercial or an ad, basically we send out to a bunch of different talent agencies and we get actual audition tapes back. And some of our commercials will get 100 audition tapes, and we sift through every single one of them, do callbacks to make sure it's someone who's like very relatable to the audience, someone who has good delivery, and all that good stuff. Then you need a good DP, director of photography, who can shoot it, and it's kind of your job to train them on how to shoot it for direct-to-consumer and e-commerce, not TV. Because the way that is shot is much different. It needs to be quick cuts, nothing on screen for typically more than 3 seconds, 4 seconds. But a lot of it comes down to the editing and how it is shot and how you build your shot list. Less is more. So spending more money on the actual talent or the actress is very, very important, because you don't want your ad to seem like acting and like have that cheesy actor feel. Edit fast and pace the video so there's ebbs and flows, and what happens next in the ad, make it very unexpected, and that's what we see a lot of success with. Prior to shooting, have people read your script. Send it to friends, send it to family, have them read it and see and watch their reactions. Do they chuckle? Do they seem bored in a certain spot? And adjust your script to that. We're very used to just in our D2C world just sending out a script and go shoot it, go UGC, go make it, blah blah blah. But have a big attention to detail here on like what people actually like here. And then people are like, oh, but that won't work on paid. We make content first to entertain, and then we edit for performance. So what I mean by that is we make the piece of content first to entertain people on organic channels. We want this to go live on Instagram, on YouTube, and people actually want to watch the entirety of the video and be thrilled that they watch the entire of the video and not be like, oh, I wasted my time watching this. Then, once we go live into the ad account, I'll show you kind of what I mean by that. So we make a high production ad, and the final isn't the final. We shoot the master video, then we edit and optimize for performance. Here's kind of how we go live with it once we shoot it. So a lot of our brands we work with are 8- and 9-figure companies. So they already have buyers in their accounts. So executing this style of ad, it's no different than executing any other style of ad. It's how you reiterate on the content. So once we're done shooting, we have our master video. This is just to look great on organic socials and be purely entertainment. Sometimes it'll rip on paid just as it is. And sometimes it flops, full transparency. But we don't give up on it if it doesn't work. We have to look at why is it not working. So when we shoot, we always shoot minimum for our clients 4 to 6 hooks. So the hooks need to be highly engaging. We did one last week where for a fragrance brand campaign we did called Prepare to Be Complimented that we're launching soon. One of the hooks is like she's in a park with like all these goths around her sniffing her. That it's like a really weird hook. We have another one, she's skydiving into frame. We have there's 6 very different weird ones, but like make your hook very engaging and earn the click. So here's the structure of our viral ads, and we do fray from this a little bit because I don't believe creative to be a one-size-fits-all. So we have our hook, that's to grab attention. We present the problem, the solution, product intro, social proof, benefit stack, so stacking all the benefits, not features, handling any objections that we see, and we go through basically, if any of you guys hit me up after this talk, I'll send you guys the CSV file we use, but we basically put all of reviews in a file, and we rank them based on what people are saying at the most frequency, what negative things people are saying at the most frequency, and we put these typically in the ad and address it right up front. Then we have our CTA and offer. This is a unique one because you can make a great ad, you can make a great piece of UGC, we all know this, but if your CTA sucks and your offer sucks, there's not much you can do there. Our first idea is to make something not cheesy and make something people actually love to watch, similar to the triple whale ad. I'll play at the end. There's a big misconception. People think you need to, with your ads, have someone speaking direct to camera. We've had many ads on the high production side hit massive scale that are not speaking direct to camera. They are two people communicating with each other. When you make with the idea of entertaining first, it'll drive sales, and it has a much higher chance of taking off simply because people want to share it, because it's actually good. I'm a firm believer in creating with intention, and when you have a good intention behind something, and your intention is to entertain people, provide people value as a company, people will want to open up their wallet and buy from you. I'll play the video at the end. So once we go live, it's really important to know your metrics. Whether it's UGC, high production, it doesn't matter. Basically what we look at is we compare on an account average. So once we go live and we pass off a piece of high production, typically the media buyers are already on these accounts, so we're in communication with them. So we're looking at thumb stop, hold rate, video average watch time, outbound CTR, and then obviously your CPA, ROAS, all that stuff. But a big thing, so if you're comparing an ad on an account average, right, and you launch a high production thing, and the thumb stop is a lot lower than the rest of the ad account, that is a hook issue. So you either need to shorten it up, make it more DR based, big bolder text on top of the very high production piece of creative. Then if you look at like the outbound CTR, so recently we launched a campaign, and on the account average, our outbound CTR, all the other metrics were outperforming the rest of the account like crazy with the piece of creative we made, but our outbound CTR was about 5% lower. And so that is a call to action issue typically. So what we'll do is we'll take that piece of creative and fix the call to action or the offer at the end of the video, make it more bold, make it more visual, and really, make it more direct response focused. So that's kind of like what we look at. And so tying it all together, as a brand, we need to think more like YouTubers and influencers, make content purely to entertain and provide value. And the reason I believe in it building such a moat is because hardly any brands are actually making content or thinking this way. Everybody just thinks like very transactional. Most brands think of converting people like how I started my presentation, that annoying person that slides into your LinkedIn or Twitter DM, who you've never even met. So I implore you to try and take advantage of platforms like TikTok if high production stuff is out of the question, and make stuff people love. The compounding effect of brand affinity won't always be shown through ROAS. Do what you can and make to provide value. And I think if you do this over a long period of time, you'll have raving loyal fans, not just customers. You'll also have a higher chance of creating something that really does go viral and earns massive attention because it's super simple. People will share and talk about things that made them actually happy. You know, like you think about it from the way of like, what friends do you share opportunities with? What friends do you give to a lot? Typically, it's friends who show up for you, who are there for you, who provide you value, not people who are constantly taking from you. And if you can do this, it's a lot harder for people to duplicate what you're doing. Art in itself is when it's very natural to your brand and you're not ripping off other people, it's very hard to duplicate, which further builds a moat around your brand. So a big thing is like making the customer the hero. So how can we create our ads for our audience's audience? So Often we make the mistake where we try to be the hero in the customer's story. As a brand, we want people to say, look at me, look at how great I am, look at this, look at that. But the key is to make the customer the hero to their audience. So say we're selling barbecues, right? Most companies' ads would be like this. Our barbecue is the best. It heats faster than any other barbecue. It's bigger, it's better materials, blah, blah, blah. Boring, no one cares, right? What would be better would be, here are 5 party backyard barbecue tricks you can do with your barbecue to make you the stud of your next party, right? It's a little bit less about you, more about them, right? Making them the hero of the story. So then you show it. Have his or her guests being like, in the ad, you're so smart, I've never seen a barbecue used like this, that kind of thing. People can picture that, picture them being that person at the party. And like, I don't know why I chose barbecues, but that was kind of just random. But you could do this for any product, right? So very similar to the triple whale ad we made. If any of you guys, maybe some of you have seen it, maybe some of you haven't, I'll play it. But Wayne becomes the hero in that story. So let me pull it up on YouTube. So when we're thinking about content, we're thinking about, making it entertaining and making the character the hero of the story. Let me get through this here. So your brand will become respectable and loved when you think about it that way. So Wayne, in this situation, he's being harped on by his bosses. People can relate to this. And then he downloads Triple Whale, and all of a sudden, attribution's looking amazing. Everything's organized, and he's completely dialed. And now his boss, Rick, loves him. So people can relate to that, right? So to close this off, build the asset of content. Think like a YouTuber. Entertain, provide value, build community, and optimize like a performance marketer. Build off what's working, scale up what is, and cut what's not. Thank you guys for having me out. And if any of you guys have any questions, let's start the questions. Yeah. Yep. Meaning, give me an example of like combining a bunch together.
So say you have like 2 or 3 top performing ads, and you want to compile those into a. So say you have 2 or 3 top performing ads, and you can compile that into like one ad, in a way that you can, right? So maybe like a mashup or something like that. Have you done that? Have you gone with that process, and how did that perform?
Totally, yeah. So we have done that, and basically the way we do it is, for example, say we shoot like 6 different hooks, and they're like, one is targeting like bloating, one is targeting gut health, one is targeting migraines, like a bunch of different stuff. We will test those 6 hooks as individuals, see which ones do the best, and say like 4 of the 6 did really well. We'll create a hook that's all 4 of them mashed together. So it's like smashing 4 problems in a row right up front. And so that's typically how we do it, but a lot of our content is like, they're like 30 to a minute and 30 spots, these commercials. So we haven't like mashed the full ad together, but there are sequences of the ad that we will mash together based off like looking into the ad account of like what data is telling us is performing the best and then mashing together.
Cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, just had a quick question on. Check. Oh, okay. Just had a quick question on hiring. Been making my own videos and totally agree. You know, funny things that have a story arc. You know, work super well, but. On basically all levels, I've had a tough time hiring videographers and actors and copywriters to do all of this. The copywriters can only spit out like 1950s style DR copy, or they want to write a Coke ad. The actors get messed up if you shoot in jump cut style a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You know, the videographers want to treat it like a film school project.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of this stuff is totally different than what these people are trained to do. So I'm just wondering how you've managed to scale the production of assets like this, given that it's kind of unique in the way it's done.
Totally, great question. So it definitely hasn't happened overnight. Now we're doing productions with crews of like 60 people plus, very big productions. But what kind of like how it happened for me is I met a guy from Toronto. His name's Steph Del Medico, and I gave him 10% of our company to build out the production side. And so I kind of trained him a lot of like how direct response performance works, and then basically brought him in to help shoot things in a way, use the cinematography background. So what we have brought into our team, like these are not videographers, these are like guys who shoot movies. Full-on cinematographers, so it's like it's a totally different kind of ball game. But like what I would say is these people are out there. Where do you live? In Austin. So like I'm sure there's a ton of like great creatives. So if you wanted to make stuff like this, there's a lot of guys who love just like making stuff. Like a lot of these guys are creatives and they love making kind of art. So yeah, it would be just like finding the right talent takes a little bit of time. When we started the production side, we did a lot of like very like direct response, top of funnel style ads, and we had like a ton of videographers, but like they would not be able to execute this kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of like finding those right people. So like if there's film companies in Austin, look them up, like that kind of thing, and then train them. Is your background like direct response performance stuff? The scripting side? Yeah, so that's kind of what I recommend on the production side for finding talent. There's a lot, like where we are in Toronto, there's a lot of like really talented artists, and I think like bringing people artists are hard to find, like people who actually have like a brain to make really good art, they're very hard to find. So if you can train these people on like how to make a piece of creative that is very artistic and like is a piece that people actually love to watch, and inject your DR stuff, that's like a sweet marriage right there. But on the script writing side, what we've done is we scaled. Like I started writing the scripts myself. Like that's kind of how we started, and I still write some scripts to this day because I like doing it. But comedic, like if you go to like comedy groups or like those kind of things, like those guys are money, and they think they're just like, if you can find people who are like, a big thing is like people who are trendy, like a lot of people who have good taste, and like a lot of these people are like, yeah, artists, creators, comedians, that kind of thing. And so yeah, we have comedians who write our scripts now. There's directors, guys who are directors who are also comedians in our team. So that would be my best bet for you. And then if you like them, bring them in and hire them and keep them and pay them well, because they'll get scooped from somewhere else.
Any other questions? Oh, we got one.
Let's say you can't afford to hire a comedy writer. Mm-hmm. How do you just learn to be funny in the start?
That's an interesting one, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it is based off like feedback from actual people. So it's like writing something, and then what we do with a lot of our scripts, like I've written scripts where it's like I pass it and like someone doesn't laugh, and so I'm like, we're not doing it. And so it's kind of like, it's literally one of those things. It's like, same with anything else, it's reps. Like watching stuff that you think is funny, being involved in the comedy kind of style, and having reps writing funny things, and then passing that off, seeing people's reactions and seeing how people kind of think about it. I mean, like if you look at like a company like Liquid Death, like I believe Mike Cesario, the founder, he worked at an ad agency, and his ideas were always getting shut down. Because funny is, when he would pitch them, they would always get shut down, and that's a lot of like what inspired him, I believe, to start Liquid Death. But being funny is kind of subjective, right? Like some people might not think our ads are funny at all, and they might hate them, and some people might love them. Just how like you might love a comedian, and someone else might hate that comedian. So it's all just kind of like, it's kind of, art is subjective kind of thing. So, but I would say just reps and getting feedback from people.
How do you think about making entertaining content in a more serious niche, say in mental health? Because it seems like that's a lot of what your style is about. But how would you adapt or tailor that to a very serious topic?
Yeah, mental health in regards to, is it a product around mental health or?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not every brand needs to do comedy. And not every brand is meant to do comedy. I think like something like mental health, there needs to be like, if you were to do something, you either be a very polarizing company, and like that's the way you go, because that, like, you see it all, like cancel culture all the time, right? A lot of guys who don't get canceled are like very polarizing. Like why has Liquid Death not been canceled? Some of their stuff could offend a lot of people, but they've done very polarizing stuff from the jump. Not to say that you couldn't do it now, but I would be like something around mental health, I would walk like a very tight line with, because it's like that could be something that leads to some stuff. And potentially like, I don't even know to touch on this, but like potentially like lawyers stuff that could potentially lead. I'm not saying like you couldn't do it, but I think you would have to do it in a very smart and creative way. I'll talk to you after, but I would have to think on that a little bit.